What if protecting your soul required more than just good habits? What if it meant walking away from the very people who drain your essence? Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." But what if the reaction is toxic? What if someone isn't transforming you but devouring you? In this video, we explore the 5 most dangerous things people may ask from you, things that seem small on the surface, but are signs of deep energetic manipulation, trauma bonding, and soul erosion. You'll discover how to recognize subtle red flags that Jung would have called archetypal trap situations that pull you out of alignment with your self and deeper into unconscious patterns of pleasing, proving, and performing. Whether in relationships, friendships, or even family dynamics, this is a wake-up call to honor your inner voice and protect your sacred boundaries. Because the truth is simple. Anyone who asks you to give away your soul is not meant to walk beside it. So stay with me. Breathe into the truth. Because sometimes walking away is the most spiritual act of all. #1. Stay away from people who ask you to abandon your intuition. There's a quiet voice inside you. It doesn't scream, doesn't plead, it doesn't argue, but it knows. This is your intuition, the purest expression of your soul's intelligence. Carl Jung called it the inner voice of the self, the compass that guides us through the dark forest of unconscious patterns toward wholeness. And yet, some people, often the ones we love or admire the most, will ask you, directly or subtly, to ignore that voice. They won't always say it aloud. Sometimes it's in a laugh when you express your feelings. Sometimes it's in a look of disbelief when you say, "I just feel something's off." Sometimes it's in the gaslighting. You're overthinking, you're too sensitive, or the most damaging of all, you're imagining things. What they're really saying is, don't trust yourself, trust me instead. And this is where the soul begins to fracture. Jung taught that the intuitive function is not irrational, it is deeply rational, just in a different language. It's the language of symbol, of sensation, of pattern. Your body knows before your mind does. Your dreams reveal what your conscious brain tries to suppress. When someone asks you to abandon your intuition, they are asking you to abandon the most ancient, sacred part of you. And over time, that abandonment becomes self-doubt, then shame, then silence. Many of us, especially as women, were taught to override our intuition in order to be liked, accepted, or kept safe. We were praised for being agreeable, for ignoring red flags, for staying in rooms where our bodies whispered, but here's the truth. Every time you silence your intuition to maintain peace with someone else, you start a war within yourself. The people who truly see you will honor your intuition if they don't understand it. They won't mock your gut feelings or make you question your sanity. They won't require you to justify your boundaries. They will meet your knowing with respect. Because when someone loves your soul, they trust the voice that guides it. Abandoning your intuition to maintain a relationship is not loyalty, it's self-betrayal. And over time, self-betrayal becomes soul loss. You begin to feel hollow, confused, anxious. You start living on someone else's timeline, someone else's reality, trying to prove something you can't even name. And all the while, that quiet voice inside you waits and never leaves. But it grows quieter the more you ignore it. Carl Jung believed that ignoring the voice of the self leads to neurosis. In modern terms, that means anxiety, depression, disconnection. The solution isn't always therapy or medication. It's often reconnection. Reconnection to the part of you that knew long before things fell apart. The part that whispered something isn't right, even when everything looked perfect on the outside. You must protect that voice, especially in relationships. Because the people who demand that you silence it are not confused. They are threatened. Your intuition exposes what their words try to hide, and your knowing makes their manipulation harder to execute. Your clarity disrupts their illusion. And so they try to mute you not just externally, but internally. They want your inner world to doubt itself, because a woman who doubts her intuition is easier to control. But here's the truth. Your intuition doesn't need to be explained to be valid. It doesn't need to be proven to be real. If something feels off, it is, even if you never find the evidence. Even if they call you crazy. Even if the entire world agrees with them. Your body is ancient, Your energy is wise. Your soul doesn't lie. If someone consistently makes you question that, it's time to walk away, not out of anger, but out of devotion. Devotion to your own wholeness. Because every time you say, I believe myself, you heal. Every time you trust your knowing, you come home. Every time you protect your inner voice, you become more powerful than anyone who tried to silence you. Jung said that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But you cannot become if you are always betraying. You cannot listen to your soul if someone else's voice is always louder. So here's your reminder. You are not too much. You are not dramatic. You're not broken. You are intuitive, and that is sacred. Stay away from people who need you to ignore that, because anyone who requires your disconnection to remain connected to you is not love. They are a lesson. #2. Stay away from people who ask you to diminish your light. There is a certain kind of person who is only comfortable when you are shrinking. They may not say it outright. They may even compliment you. But their energy shifts when you succeed. Their mood changes when you express joy. Their support fades when you begin to rise. These people aren't always your enemies. Sometimes they are your friends, your family, even your partner. Carl Jung believed that our greatest potential lies not just in healing our wounds, but in integrating our gifts. That means embracing our intelligence, our creativity, our spiritual knowing, our beauty, our truth. But for many women, this light becomes a threat to others, and eventually to ourselves. We've been conditioned to dim. We've apologized for our power. To soften our truth so others won't feel small, so we learn to filter ourselves to take up just enough space to survive, but never enough to truly shine. But your light is not arrogant. It is not aggressive. It is not too much. It is the reflection of who you truly are when you stop editing your essence for the comfort of those who never intended to meet you fully. People who ask you to dim your light often do so unconsciously. Your brilliance mirrors what they've denied in themselves. Your clarity highlights their confusion. Your strength triggers their weakness. And instead of rising with you, they try to anchor you back to the level where they feel in control. This is not your fault, but it is your responsibility to notice. You'll know you're around someone like this when you begin to silence your joy, when you share your wins with hesitation, when you sense jealousy behind their congratulations, when you start questioning whether you should shrink just to be loved. Jung would say this dynamic reflects the unintegrated shadow, both theirs and yours. Their shadow wants to pull you down. Your shadow wants to be accepted. So unconsciously, a contract is created. I'll make myself smaller if it keeps you close. But the cost is enormous, because the more you dim, the less you recognize yourself. There's a sacred grief that comes from realizing someone you love is not rooting for your evolution. It hurts, but it also frees you. So once you see the pattern, you can choose differently. You can say, I will no longer hide who I am to protect your comfort. And that changes everything. When you refuse to diminish your light, you begin attracting those who are not intimidated by your power but inspired by it. People who clap when you win, who reflect your joy back to you, who hold space for your expansion without feeling like they're losing something in return. These are soul-aligned connections. They're rare. They're real. You only find them when you stop settling for half-love built on self-betrayal. Jung once said that individuation, the process of becoming your true self, is often accompanied by the loss of relationships that cannot evolve with you. That's not cruelty, that's growth. Not everyone is meant to stay in your light. Some are only there to show you how bright it truly is. The feminine soul was never meant to be dimmed. She was meant to shine, to awaken, to radiate wisdom, presence, and power. You are not a threat, you are a mirror. And those who cannot face themselves will blame you for the reflection. So shine anyway. Speak anyway. Create anyway. Rise anyway. Because every time you do, you heal not just yourself, but the entire lineage of women who were silenced, shamed, or made to feel small for daring to be radiant. And when someone asks you through words or energy to turn down your light, just so they can feel brighter, remember this. Your soul was not made to flicker. It was made to burn, boldly, unapologetically, divinely. Stay away from those who can only love you in the dark. Because the ones who are meant for you will stand with you in the full glow of your becoming and not blink. #3. Stay away from people who ask you to carry their emotional burdens without consent. There's a hidden weight many women carry and it isn't theirs. It's the unspoken emotional labor of others. The pressure to soothe, fix, absorb, and regulate someone else's chaos without ever being asked. And the most dangerous part? Sometimes we've done it for so long, we forget it's not love. It's a lack of boundaries disguised as compassion. Carl Jung taught that projection is the root of many dysfunctional relationships. When someone projects their pain, their shame, their unhealed wounds onto you, they're not relating to you, they're using you. And if you're not conscious of this, you'll mistake their dependency for intimacy. You'll think being needed is the same as being loved. But love honors freedom. Love honors choice. Love says, I'll hold space for your healing, but I won't carry it for you. And that distinction is everything. You'll recognize these dynamics when someone expects you to manage their moods. When they unload their trauma on you without asking if you're available, and they call it venting, but it's really a transfer of pain. When your nervous system becomes their emotional dumping ground, and you feel guilty for saying no, these people may not be abusive. Some are just lost. But if they've grown comfortable asking you to be their emotional anchor without ever checking in on your needs, it becomes parasitic. Jung would say this is a form of unconscious possession where another unresolved shadow attaches itself to your light. And here's the truth. Empathy without boundaries leads to burnout. Compassion without consent leads to codependency. And healing is not yours to force, absorb, or perform for someone else. You are not a sponge. You are not a therapist in disguise. You are a soul with your own path to walk, your own energy to manage, and your own wounds to tend to. Being supportive is beautiful, but only when it's mutual, consensual, and held in emotional integrity. The moment someone makes you feel guilty for having boundaries around your energy, pay attention. That is not love. It is need masquerading as connection. It is emotional immaturity seeking refuge in your open heart. You are not selfish for stepping away. You are not cruel for protecting your peace. You are wise. You are discerning. You are awake. Stay away from people who collapse into your arms every time life gets hard, but vanish when you need holding. You deserve reciprocity, not role reversal. You deserve sacred exchange, not silent exhaustion. Because the most healing relationships are not the ones where one person saves the other. They are the ones where both people meet in their fullness. Because the most healing relationships are not the ones where one person saves the other. They are the ones where both people meet in their fullness. Witness each other's humanity and say, I will walk beside you, but I will not walk for you. That is real love. Anything else is weight you were never meant to carry. 4. Stay away from people who ask you to stay small for their comfort. There's a moment, often subtle but seismic, when you realize that someone prefers the smaller version of you. The quieter one, the more agreeable one. The version that smiles without question, nods without resistance, and bends without breaking. And suddenly, their affection starts to feel conditional, something you must earn through compliance, not presence. Carl Jung believed that the human soul is not designed to remain small. He wrote that we are each born with an individuation impulse, a psychological and spiritual drive to become the fullest, truest version of ourselves. But for that to happen, we must grow. We must expand. We must outgrow the roles others have cast us in. And growth is threatening to those who have built their comfort around your containment. You may have noticed it when you began to speak up. When you started honoring your needs, you changed your routines, your priorities, your spiritual practice, and they became distant, critical, or passive-aggressive. Not because you harmed them, but because your evolution reminded them of their stagnation. These people will never say, please stay small so I can feel better about my life. But their actions will scream it. And the most painful part? They might have once loved you, but only the version of you that didn't challenge them. The moment you stepped into your sovereignty, they labeled you selfish, different, too much. But here's the sacred truth. You are not too much. You are simply no longer available for dimmed down, diluted, half-alive living. You are awakening. And some people will fall away not because you failed them, but because you stopped failing yourself. Staying small to maintain a connection is spiritual suffocation. It may buy you temporary approval, but it costs you your essence. And over time, that cost becomes unbearable. You start losing color, passion, purpose, until one day, you look in the mirror and barely recognize the woman you once dreamed of becoming. Don't let that happen. Jung would tell you that every act of self-actualization is a sacred rebellion. You are defying generations of silencing. You are saying yes to your wholeness, even if it means others walk away. You are remembering that your purpose is not to be palatably, it's to be powerful. So stand tall, speak loud, take up space, be seen. Because the people who are meant for you will never ask you to shrink. They will meet you in your fullness and ask for more. Not more obedience, but more truth. Not more performance, but more presence. Not more of who you were, but more of who you're becoming. Stay away from those who can only love your silence. Your expansion is not a threat, it's a gift. And the ones who matter will rise with you. 5. Stay away from people who ask you to prove your worth. There is a lie many of us inherited, that love must be earned, that we are not worthy by being. We must prove, perform, and perfect ourselves to be chosen. This belief is the wound beneath the wound, the root of so much pain in relationships. And it often shows up as people who require you to prove your worth, over and over again. Carl Jung believed that true healing begins when we recognize our inherent value not as an idea, but as an embodied truth. And yet when someone only offers you love when you meet their conditions, they reinforce the opposite, that your worth is conditional. You'll know you're in this dynamic when love feels like a test, and approval is sporadic. When you're praised for self-sacrifice and punished for authenticity, when you feel like you're always auditioning, never arriving. At first, it may feel familiar because many of us were raised in environments where we had to earn love. We were told, be good, be quiet, be helpful, and maybe you'll be loved. That conditioning runs deep, and those who benefit from it will exploit it. But here's the truth. Your soul was never meant to beg. Your love is not a currency. Your presence is not a product. You do not exist to be tolerable. You exist to be whole. And anyone who can only love you when you are proving something is not seeing you. They are seeing a version of themselves they wish to control. Jung called this a projection of the ego. When someone demands proof of your value, they are projecting their own emptiness onto you. And if you're not conscious, you'll internalize that projection and begin performing. You'll dance for breadcrumbs. You'll chase validation like it's oxygen. But eventually, the soul revolts. It whispers, this isn't love. And if you're brave enough to listen, you begin the most sacred act of all, self-reclamation. You no longer ask, am I enough? You say, I am, period. You stop auditioning, you start arriving. And in that arrival, you realize love is not a prize, it's a mirror. And only those who are whole enough to see you will ever reflect your worth back to you. Stay away from those who need you to jump through hoops to feel lovable. You are not a performance, you are a presence. And the right ones will never ask you to prove what your soul already knows. You are worthy now and always. Your energy is sacred, your voice is sacred, your soul is sacred. Never forget that. People who ask you to betray yourself in order to belong are not your people. The ones who ask you to shrink, to carry, to prove, to dim, to disconnect, or not offering love, they are offering control. Carl Jung taught us that the journey of life is not about becoming what others want. It's about becoming who you already are, whole, real, radiant, unapologetically true. So let this be your permission slip to walk away from anyone who makes your nervous system contract, from any connection that feeds on your silence, from any love that asks you to forget your soul. You are not made to be convenient. You are made to be conscious. And in that consciousness, everything begins to change. If this message resonated with you, make sure to subscribe to Soul Elevation, where we don't just talk about healing, we embody it. Where we don't chase light, we become it. Until next time, stay rooted, stay radiant, and most of all, stay true.